This week on Enemy Sidelines, presented by Microsoft Teams, we've got Detroit Lions team reporter and my good friend Tori Petry, who I just spoke to recently when we interviewed the Moore brothers, but here she is again. She's going to break down the Detroit Lions for us. Tori, welcome in. It's Thanksgiving Day. I know you've covered a lot of these games. I'm super excited. It's my first, but what is the best part about playing on Thanksgiving?
Well, Deepi, first of all, one of the best parts of this week is getting a double dose of hanging out with you. I'm glad that we've gotten to do this a couple of times. But no, like I've told you, you are going to love this Thanksgiving Day game. It is such a blast to be a part of. It's really cool to have the entire country's eyes on this game. Obviously, it will look a little bit different this year. Usually the atmosphere in Ford Field is absolutely electric. No matter how the Lions are doing, everybody comes out for that Thanksgiving Day game and is in a great mood. It's a holiday. Everyone has a lot of fun. It'll be a little bit different this year because there won't be fans in the stadium, but I'm thinking that the players will still bring that energy because the Lions have had this Thanksgiving tradition for years and years and years, and all these players know how special it is.
I know we've been hearing about it all week. The players are super pumped to get to play Thanksgiving, for many of them the first time, because the last time these two teams played, a lot of them weren't even in the NFL. So let's talk about this Lions team. They're 4-6. We saw the loss on Sunday, a tough loss against the Panthers. They were shut out. But how important is this game for the Lions against the Texans on Thursday? And how much of a concern are the injuries on such a short week?
Yeah, the injuries definitely played a part in Sunday's loss in Carolina, but you can't really blame that because Carolina had plenty of injuries on their side as well. Their quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, did not play. Christian McCaffrey did not play. So they were playing with backups at both of those positions. So Lions can't really blame that loss on Sunday on injuries. They just really couldn't get anything going offensively. They were shut out for the first time since 2009. So they are, coming off of a very, very tough loss. So that makes this Thanksgiving Day game so important for them. I know they are all looking to get the bad taste out of their mouth, out of that shutout on Sunday. They want to come out. They want to perform well on Thursday, on Thanksgiving Day, especially since this is kind of a game that the Lions own since they started the Thanksgiving tradition. But that makes this Thursday so important. They had a chance to get back to 500 on Sunday against the Panthers. They weren't able to do it. But if they let this one drop as well, they really fall into a tough spot.
Well, the last time these two teams played each other, one guy that was definitely on the field was quarterback Matt Stafford back in 2012. So this year, 17 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions on the season. There were a lot of high expectations for Stafford. It seemed like coming into the season, he was healthy and he's had so much experience behind him. He's overcome a lot in year 12, a couple of COVID scares and all, but why has his performance not necessarily translated into wins this year?
Yeah, it's been a little bit puzzling because Matthew Stafford was playing so well at an all-pro level last year before he was injured in week 9 and missed the rest of the season. And that was in Darrell Bevell's offense. He was a first-time coordinator here at the Lions. He joined the Lions last year, and Matthew Stafford was thriving in his offense. Still Darrell Bevell at offensive coordinator this year, but the connection just hasn't been working quite as smoothly. It's kind of hard to diagnose why. Matthew Stafford has been absolutely stellar when they get into those 2-minute drills, just 1 minute left on the clock in the game. He's still been great at that. We all know how good he is in those kinds of situations. But then there have been other points in games where he's made some questionable decisions. That's where those interceptions have come from. Most of them have just been kind of, scratch your head type of decisions that he would take responsibility for as well. That was just a bad decision. That was a bad throw. And that's what's happened with those interceptions that he's had. So he has struggled a little bit this season. We haven't quite seen him play up to that level that he was last year before he got injured, but he has been through a lot coming into this season as far as, missing the whole year last year, and then obviously the COVID scares and missing an entire week of practice 1 week because he was quarantined, all those kinds of things, those make things challenging. And I know he's trying to get things back on track, but it's also tough when your defense hasn't really been able to pull their weight as well. So I think that's been part of it, kind of trying to feel like he's got to carry this team and kind of, push the ball a little bit more than he usually would because of, other factors on the team. But, I know he's looking to turn things around and there's still time left in the season.
All right. One thing he does do well, we dug up this next gen stat presented by AWS, max air distance. So top 5 quarterbacks. Okay. Max distance is distance from the point of release to the point of catch. I had to look this up because I wanted to make sure I got it right. Top 5 quarterbacks in the league Matthew Stafford is number 4 with 61.8 yards. Deshaun Watson also makes that list, number 2 with 63.4 yards max air distance. So tell me, what has made the downfield passing attack so successful for Stafford this year?
Listen, I would love to see just a shootout on Thursday, just see a lot of deep passes. Those are always the most fun ones to watch, but I know it's important for this team, the Lions, that is, to establish the run. That's always what they build their passing game off of. And there have been times this season where that has worked, and that's when you've seen that downfield passing. That's when you've seen him connect with guys like Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones Jr., even Marvin Hall. Those guys have been catching those deep passes from Stafford. We all know, we've watched Stafford's career unfold. He excels in those types of situations, but the Lions are really trying to set that up with the run. And when they haven't been able to set that up with the run, those have been the games where we haven't seen quite as many deep passes.
Well, you mentioned the running game. So we saw that Deandre Swift went out with the concussion. He missed Sunday's game against the Panthers. But you still have a veteran in Adrian Peterson. So if Swift can't go and Peterson steps in, how different does that run game look? What does Peterson bring to the run game that Swift doesn't? How do those backs really complement each other on the ground?
I mean, it's really been unfortunate to see Deandre Swift go down. Obviously, you never want to see these guys get concussions. That's what he's struggling with right now. And he got one just after he got his first start for the Lions. He had been playing in and out. They'd been kind of doing a running back by committee approach, but he got his first start, played absolutely stellar, had almost 150 yards from scrimmage. And then later that week, he comes down with that concussion. So it's really unfortunate for the rookie because he was just starting to really come on. We were really starting to see what this offense could look like when he was in there. So unfortunately, the Lions haven't been able to have him out there. We'll see what happens on Thanksgiving Day, but they have still been using that running back by committee approach. So it wasn't like Deandre Swift was their bell cow that was taking all the carries. They were still working guys like Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson in there. Adrian Peterson really started off this season as the Lions starter. And, he had 2 games where he had over 75 yards rushing. And we saw, hey, Adrian Peterson can still get it done. Now, the Lions weren't able to get their run game going on Sunday against Carolina, that first game that Deandre Swift missed. So we'll see if they can turn things around. The offensive line had kind of an uncharacteristic day, but I think that's kind of their philosophy. As long as they win in the trenches, it doesn't matter who's in the backfield.
All right, I want to ask you about tight end TJ Hawkinson, because I remember when he was coming out in the draft, he was highly touted. There was a lot of buzz around this tight end, and now he's in year 2. So how has he progressed from year 1 to year 2, and where does he fit into that offense?
Yeah, TJ's been one of Matthew Stafford's favorite targets so far this year. He's been playing very solid. Obviously, it kind of switches up the offense like this last week when you were missing guys like Kenny Golladay and Danny Amendola. Those are other go-to targets for Matthew Stafford. So the defense has to pay a lot of attention to them. Now, when those guys are out and you have less, high-powered guys to focus on, that gives a little bit more attention to TJ Hawkinson. He didn't quite put up the same numbers, but the best play for the Lions in that game against the Panthers was a 35-yard catch from TJ Hawkinson. So we know that he can get it done. He's been really important for the Lions at that tight end position. And one of their most exciting games so far this season was against the Atlanta Falcons when they had a drive to win the game down in the final minutes. And it was TJ Hawkinson who caught that touchdown pass. So he's been a real important part of this team this year.
All right, well, let's talk about that defense, because the Lions wanted some pass rush help. They got pass rush help, and it was just right around the trade deadline. They traded for Everson Griffin, the defensive end from the Dallas Cowboys. So what was Matt Patricia's vision for him? How has that transition been so far, and has he lived up to the expectations for him?
Yeah, it took Everson just about 2 games to get going, but by that second game, he had already set a franchise record for quarterback hits. He had 5 in that game, and it was just his second game as a Lion. So yes, he's been absolutely crucial on that defensive line, and he came at a perfect time because Trey Flowers went on IR right when Everson Griffin joined this team. So the Lions were looking for help along that defensive line. I mean, Trey Flowers is arguably their best player on defense. And when he goes on IR, you luckily had just brought in a guy who could help out with getting after the quarterback, and Everson has lived up to the billing. And it's also helped that he's had Romeo Okwara on that defensive line with him as well, because Romeo has really come on this season. He's been a real big part of that defensive line. So between Romeo and Everson, the defensive line has improved since the beginning of the season.
All right, so that Lions defense, much like the Texans defense, has given up a lot of points this year. The Lions give up an average of 28.7 points. Texans maybe slightly better at 27.2 points per game on average. So where has the Lions defense struggled the most this year, do you think?
Well, the biggest place they've struggled is in stopping the run. The games that they have won this season have been the games where they have been able to stop the run. That's kind of their philosophy. We want to run the ball. We want to be able to stop the run. When they haven't been able to stop the run, those have been the games that they've lost. They've had 2 games this season where they've allowed over 250 yards rushing. You can't win games when you allow that many yards in the run game. So the Lions have really needed to clean up that area of their game. There have been games where they've done it better than others. And like I said, those have been the games that they've won. So that is going to be their MO against the Texans on Thanksgiving. They want to be able to stop the run, force the pass, and they feel like they can win when they do that.
All right, Tori, before I let you go, I'm so bummed that it's not a traditional Thanksgiving Day game with the crowd and the halftime show and all that. But with that being said, I love me a good halftime show. So what has been the best one that you've covered since you've been with the Lions?
Oh, goodness, man. Those are always so much fun, but it's also crazy because, that's your little break in the game where it's like, okay, run to the bathroom, run, get a snack, come back to your seat. So when you're covering the game, it is a little bit different, but those halftime shows have really been a lot of fun. I think Andy Grammer did one a couple years ago where they had the cheerleaders do a really cool routine with him out on the field. That's the one that comes to mind. But, it really is a shame that we won't have that. Maybe I'll have to pull up some music on my laptop and just play it at halftime just to feel like things are a little bit normal. Maybe I'll do that. But Deepi, we'll miss having you guys in stadium on Thursday, I should say, because that Thanksgiving Day game is really a blast. But I know you guys will still have fun covering it from a distance.
We will be certainly covering it from here with the pregame show, and we'll show live shots of the stadium. Wish I was there as well. Hopefully these 2 teams can play again many, many times in the future. And it'll be under normal circumstances with a
Absolutely.
great halftime show. I remember Kid Rock back in the day, Detroit native. I thought that was a lot of fun. I'm not necessarily a Kid Rock fan, but I thought that was a great halftime show. Tori, this has been great. It's been a lot of fun. Always great catching up with you. Have a great game and rest of the season.